All right, welcome to taxLESS Show. On this show, we're going to talk about the single biggest expense in your life and how to reduce it. We're going to talk about if you have a corporation, the number one thing that is triggering audits right now and how to prevent them. We're going to talk about what happens when you don't file taxes for years and what happens when the IRS finally catches up with you, because they're doing that more and more now because of AI. We're going to talk about the one thing that most business owners skip that costs them thousands of dollars, and it's not what you think. All this on with my amazing guest, Bill Fritton, the back tax expert. All right, let's get started. You want to know one way to save thousands of dollars? Put just extra thousands of dollars in your pocket. It's super simple. Every week, we're going to send you a tip from the taxLESS Show when you sign up for our newsletter. Go to taxless.show, or if you're on YouTube, just look below for a link to sign up for the newsletter. We're going to send you a tax tip every week. That's simple, easy to do. Alternative investment advice, possible Q&As with tax experts. Plus, every month, we're going to give away a super cool I Hate Taxes t-shirt. Some version of that. But join us on the taxLESS newsletter to make sure you don't miss a single taxLESS episode. I've got my good friend, Bill Fritton, the back tax expert. Bill, thanks for being on the first episode.
Thanks for having me. Exciting.
It's exciting. We're going to talk, because taxes, it's one of those things, it's inevitable, and it's so important. And that's why we want to start the show, because I think so many people just don't want to talk about it, put their heads in the sand, as you know.
Yes.
And they don't realize the power in knowing it, because I mean, really, the wealthiest people in the world use it to their advantage, don't they?
All of them do. Yes, all of them do. It's going to be in your lifetime, it's going to be the biggest expense you have, more than likely. It's what you pay to the government, both federal and state.
That's crazy to think of.
It's too bad, but yes, it is crazy.
But it's the truth.
Yes, it is the truth.
And being knowledgeable about taxes is absolutely crucial. And, we'll talk a little bit about over the next few episodes too, what happens if you don't pay attention. And I want to talk about all the things if you don't pay attention to taxes. You see that.
It's my business.
It's your business. It's because there's a lot of people that get in tax trouble. And I think there's people that just pay their taxes. There's people that take advantage of it, which we'll talk about, and there's people that don't pay their taxes and get in trouble, or pay their taxes the wrong way, or through no fault of their own, get in trouble. And you see that too, right?
I see that all the time, every day.
But before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about, you've been in tax for a while.
30 years.
And you grew up in it too, didn't you?
I did, yep. My father was in it before I was, so a long time.
Yeah, and what's the advantage of understanding the federal tax code, state tax code? How is that an advantage to build wealth?
I think the biggest advantage in terms of understanding the tax code is what you can and cannot do, and ways to maximize keeping money in your pocket. It should be every tax professional's mantra or goal, is that their clients should not have to pay 1 cent more to the government than they have to legally. You always want to do it legally, you always want to do it the right way, but for business owners, I think the biggest thing is knowing what structure your business should take, whether it be a sole member LLC, sole proprietor, partnership, S corporation, C corporation. Those are going to be ways that you can not only safeguard your assets, depending on how large your business is, but also how to maximize the money you get to put in your pocket at the end of the year. And as an individual, knowing what you can do and can't do, how to maximize your savings through either 401ks, IRAs, self-directed IRAs, SEP accounts, so that you can not only take the tax deduction for those things, but also set yourself up for retirement sooner rather than later.
That expense thing, you and I have been friends for years. We've worked together. I've been doing tax videos. I'm pretty sad about how many tax videos I made. But it's the first time I've heard someone say it's the biggest expense of your lifetime. And as you're saying that and everything you're saying, I'm like, I spend so much time like shopping to save $10 on a TV.
Yeah, that's not where the money's going. I mean, it is, and you should be doing that, but
Yeah.
I mean, every year, theoretically, on April 15th or sometime between April 15th and October 15th for individuals, you're going to look at your tax return and it should strike you right away that, wow, that's a lot of money that I paid to the government. In Florida, not necessarily the state, but in Virginia, you're also going to look at your Virginia return and go, wow, that's a lot of money I paid to the state. And then hopefully you don't have a line at the bottom that says, here's how much you owe, and you have to stroke a big check, which is even more painful. And if you're self-employed, sometimes that is the case if you haven't made your estimated tax payments. I mean, most people are aware of it when they get their paycheck every week and they say, wow, here's how much I make. And then they look at that tax line where it says withholding. And they're like, wow, I'm giving a lot of money to the U.S. government and to the state government.
And so, you see a lot of people that have gotten tax problems, and we'll talk about those, and those people no fault of their own. We're going to talk in episodes about tax relief scams, because there's a lot of those out there.
There are.
And the advantage of this. But before we move on, between the tax, for businesses, you see all these businesses. What do you think is the most common thing that business owners, small business owners don't do that they should be doing?
For small businesses, especially really small businesses, I think just not bookkeeping is just bookkeeping and not keeping good records. I think that's the biggest problem small businesses have. And sometimes not through any fault of their own. I mean, they're busy trying to generate business and service their clients. And a lot of times their bookkeeping falls behind. So I think whenever you're starting a business, it's always really good to make sure you have a system or set of systems set up so that you track your income and also your expenses, so that you make sure you're not missing anything in terms of an expense point of view. But also, for most businesses, you have to manage by the numbers. And if you don't have the numbers, you can't manage the business. You don't know whether you're making money, losing money, whether you're pricing properly, whether your expenses are too high. And I urge all my clients, at the end of every month, at a minimum every quarter, you should be looking at your books and saying, okay, was this a good month or a bad month? And then how do I improve in that? Were my wages too high based on how much money I brought in? Were these expenses too high? And then how do I change that so that more money is getting to the bottom line, so that at the end of the day, you're trying to feed your family. So you want as much money going to the bottom line as possible. And I think the biggest problem I see is just poor bookkeeping and lack of management because of the poor bookkeeping.
And from a tax standpoint, what should they be doing? What's your biggest tip there?
I think maximizing your profit based on your setup. Whether you're a sole member LLC, should you be treated as an S-Corp or a C-Corp? And again, it depends where you want to go with the business and what you're trying to do. A lot of times people set themselves as S-Corp thinking they're going to maximize taxes, but it's not always the case in terms of being a sole proprietor or an S-Corp as a partnership, whatever it is, because there's associated costs with setting up corporations. A big thing these days with S-Corp, and where I see people make a lot of mistakes, and the IRS is really cracking down on this, is you have to take a salary for yourself as the business owner. Back in the day, 10 years ago, a lot of people would set up an S-Corp and they would just take distribution. You don't have to pay self-employment tax on that, but the IRS is really cracking down now, and you have to take a reasonable salary if you are the owner of an S-Corp.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, for example, if you're a painting company, you as the owner, as an S-Corp, if you have 15 employees, you also have to take a paycheck, commiserate with whatever somebody in that industry doing your job would take. Now, there's a lot of open interpretation for that, but it's something you do need to be aware of because the IRS is cracking down, and a lot of audits I see are for that very reason.
And what happens if I'm not, you say an audit, what happens if I'm not doing that properly? What?
So the biggest thing is what they'll do is they'll just come in and they'll just assign you, here's how much wages you should have taken, okay? And then what falls from that is you have to have withholding taken out, all right? And then you have to pay FICA, Medicare and FICA, Social Security. So,
and does that go into a back tax situation?
Yeah, it could, yes.
Oh, wow.
I mean, the biggest thing is, quite frankly, is that's an audit trigger. And once the audit starts, then all your books are going to get looked at, and nobody wants that because it's very time consuming and expensive to go through that.
And if I'm not doing that right now, what should I just today start giving myself a salary?
Yeah, I would say you start giving yourself a salary. So if you're an AC company, all right, if you were, say, a manager of an air conditioning company, how much would you be making? Now, if the business can't afford to pay you that, that's one thing. But if your profits are substantial enough that you can afford to pay yourself whatever that wage would be, and it's not an exact number, and there's ways to find that number, but yeah, you just start paying yourself a salary, and it is what it is. And the following year, we're in September, October now. There's not a lot you're probably going to be able to do by the end of the year, but next year, make sure you're doing it. And if the cash flow of the business allows, you can obviously catch up. You can give yourself a bonus or whatever and get yourself on that payroll, pay the proper taxes by the end of the year, so you'll be fine for this year as well.
Do you see now with AI a lot more audits probably coming down the pipe?
A lot more, yes. The IRS is definitely implementing AI, and it's perfect for the IRS. AI, artificial intelligence, is perfect for the IRS to have, and I'm no AI expert, but to go in to look at people's tax returns instead of individuals looking at people's tax returns, just have the computer or the AI or whatever it is go in and pluck things. I mean, they've always had a system where their computer systems would do that, but their computer systems are so outdated. But with this new technology and their real push to get their technology caught up to modern day, I think AI is going to be a huge component in identifying people and businesses for audit.
And at what point would someone hire someone like you? Go to backtaxexpert.com and go, hey, Bill.
So most people come to us after the fact.
Yeah.
They've already gone through the audit, or they have already not filed their taxes for several years, or they have filed their taxes and not paid, and now they're getting the nasty grams from the IRS. That's usually when they come to us. Very few people come to us during the audit stage. A lot of people try to handle it themselves, or if they had a preparer do their returns for them, that preparer will usually try to handle the audit. So we come in a lot of times after the fact, once the notice of deficiency has gone out. But most of our clients are people who either just haven't paid and the IRS has finally caught up to them, or they haven't filed and now the IRS is catching up to them.
But if you haven't filed in a while, you should do it before the IRS catches up to you, right?
Always, yes. It's always best to get ahead of the game.
Why is that?
Well, because your decision-making process is somewhat limited. If the IRS is already after you, okay, you're more reactive than proactive. It's always better to get ahead of the game. If the IRS is coming after you, they are going to, in some cases, they may actually prepare returns for you, which are not going to give you any of the benefits of doing themselves, deductions, filing status, anything of that nature.
Awesome. Well, and so, I mean, this is fantastic information. We'd like to, with taxLESS Show, we're going to keep these down to 10, 15 minutes just so you can stay up to date, really understand all of your tax problems, your tax situations, your tax opportunities so you can build wealth. But if you want to, if you haven't filed taxes in a while, you should go to Bill, go to backtaxexpert.com, and how much does it cost for them to call you?
Doesn't cost a penny to call me. It's free. First consultation is free. During the initial phone conversation, I'm going to get a lot of background information on the particular situation. In some cases, if I feel as though you can handle it yourself, I'll tell you how to handle it, and that'll be the end of it. If the situation is complex enough where you do need some help or you just don't feel comfortable handling it yourself, we'll go through kind of the steps that we will take to help you and let you know what it would cost for us to handle it for you, and then you can make a decision as to whether you want to use us or not.
Awesome. Awesome. So the backtaxexpert.com, it's got a lot of amazing videos on his YouTube channel. We'll put a link to that down below. Thank you for joining us on this initial launch episode of the taxLESS show. This has been Ian Garlic from Garlic Studios and Bill Fritton with Back Tax Expert. And go pay your taxes. If you're behind on your taxes, you're not alone, but it can be scary, and the wrong advice can really cost you. But the right advice can get that out of your hair, and you can move on. What you need to do is find a local certified tax expert, and you can find that at besttaxhelp.org. On this website, you'll be able to find local tax experts near you, compare them, see their rates, and figure out what the best next steps for you before you ever have to talk to anyone and never have to talk to the IRS again. besttaxhelp.org.